be a good discussion because I think there's some baselines that we can attempt to unite upon. Because as I said before, when it comes to Jared Goff, some people might think I'm a hater sometimes. Some people might think I'm too much of a lover sometimes. People probably think I'm more of a hater than a lover. But my point is that I am the most fair person at this network when it comes to Jared Goff, and I will show you why. But first, Mad Packs, JB Smooth.
Mad Packs.
No, I think it's very fair with Jared Goff, but we live in a town, and this has been going on for decades. We do not like the starting quarterback of the Detroit Lions, and I don't get it. Jared Goff was supposed to be done by now. Remember, he was a bridge quarterback.
Well, yeah.
He wasn't going to win championships. He wasn't going to win playoff games here. He's exceeded what many people thought of him. Now, one other thing I will say about him is that in the playoff game against the Commanders, because that's the last thing we remember, I think he choked in that game from this standpoint. He felt he had to do too much. If Jared Goff can play within himself, if he can make sure that this offense is not a high-risk offense, if he doesn't turn the ball over, he does his play action, he's very, very productive. But I think what Jared Goff looked at, and he will never admit this, they didn't have a defense. So then Jared Goff got into okay, we got the ball, we have to score 2 touchdowns on this drive. Mm-hmm. So he tried to do too much. He can't do that. He can't play outside of himself. He has to be a game manager, which is a bad name in the NFL, but you know what? It wins.
And that's what I was hinting at earlier. He says he does not care what happens in the regular season, only what happens in the playoffs. Or basically the regular season, the real ball is played in January. And he was addressing that at me because I said, we saw the Lions overcome this. If this was the same team and this was just literally, Goff going out there and having those turnovers and everybody else played up to par, then yeah, but it just wasn't the same team. And that's where I believe we have to if you're talking about any kumbaya, we have to be real about that fact. On one hand, we have on record that people do believe those injuries impacted the Detroit Lions. And when they were more healthy, we've seen them be able to overcome multiple times in the Jared Goff era, multiple turnover games by him, including against the Bears. So that's where it's like we've seen this team be able to overcome these types of mistakes. But when you're in the playoffs, you're playing up against a Commanders team that has an offense that was taking advantage of everything. You gave them the ball, they were going to put something on the board. That's where, you look at Jared Goff's 4 turnovers. Understanding that the defense wasn't there, I would have said put them in more of a safe position than try to go out there and press to do more. But you're right. It looked like he went out there off of, the high of a top 5 MVP season. And I think he, in terms of usage, did a whole lot or tried to do a whole lot more. And I see, a couple other people in the chat are trying to say, yeah, he got concussed and forced himself back into the game. That just doesn't matter to me at that point in time. It really doesn't. You're in the game. Your job is to perform. And if you're making mistakes while you're in the game, especially if you forced your way in, you got to wear that, especially if you know where your defense is.
I wanted to use the word elite because he did play turnover-free football. He did have a passer rating of over 100 in that playoff run, which is phenomenal, by the way. He was one of the most responsible people for getting the Lions those 2 playoff wins at home against the Rams and the Buccaneers. So, and this is where I disagree with one thing that Ed O'Neill says. I think you're going a little bit too far. And this is the point of this exercise where he said that Jared Goff is the Aaron Judge in terms of like a play, because Aaron Judge is a known playoff underperformer. And with Aaron Judge, unfortunately, even though he's one of the best offensive players and hitters I've ever seen, the playoffs is a bugaboo for him. With Jared Goff, it's more up and down. And unfortunately or fortunately, that's been what it has been with the Detroit Lions. Elite in 2023. This next year, he can give us some good playoff golf because we've seen it. Do
you know what we do as a community here? We move the goalposts. So we say Jared Goff can't win big games. So the Commanders game was a big game, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't the Tampa Bay playoff game last year a big game?
Yeah, there was people still questioning if he was better than Stafford or Baker Mayfield.
Wasn't the Rams playoff game a big game?
Yes.
He won both of them. But now we take that out of the equation as a big game. But the Commanders game was a big game, but he's won big games.
That's
before.
why I brought up the 2023 playoff run. Like, we're literally sitting there. He put the ball on the money several times. There were so many other wonky things that happened, but we'll never weight it that way. And I get it. It's because of how he's paid. I see even Demon Dice, like Goff getting paid $69 million, and the Lions can't ask him to do too much to carry the team. Isn't that the reason Goff is getting paid so much? We've seen Goff do this especially when the team was more intact. And what did we see? We saw a perfect playoff run. That's what we saw. Clean, perfect playoff run. And he beat a lot of quarterbacks and was on his way to beating the third one that people said and were questioning, is he even better than? People were saying he was not better than Baker Mayfield, and he's not better than Matthew Stafford. And we saw him go out there and dice them up. That's the thing. Did these other quarterbacks have some decent games? They had some decent games. Stafford had a decent game, but he looked like Stafford of Detroit. And you know what Jared Goff looked like? He looked like a quarterback that a lot of people didn't believe was going to show up and actually pull this Detroit Lions team to a win. And it was how he did it. How many times did we see our Lions team icing another team away? We got the ball. We got an opportunity. It used to be, okay, we're going to take off as much time as possible, then punt it back. And then some crazy bull crap would happen where we would lose. We saw this all too much. And now you got Jared Goff who went out there, and it's as if people are just wiping this clean from their memories for a season in which the defense was completely decimated going up against them. Where I do compound the issues with Jared Goff is if you're giving, 31 points should be enough. I saw someone say 31 should be enough to beat any team. It should be, but when you're giving a Commanders team who's very efficient on offense and takes fourth downs like you take fourth downs, you're putting yourself in a blender, and that's what wound up happening to him.
But you can score 80 points, but if you turn the ball over, you are still culpable for a loss because you're giving the other team an opportunity to score 90 points. You're giving them short fields and stuff like that.
Because I want to be fair to that. I'm not trying to absolve him of anything. I just believe that people are too quick to move on from what he's been to the resurgence of not just the Lions. We're not like at what the Lions were underneath Stafford and Calvin during their glory years or best years. Now I'm throwing stuff all over the desk. We're at a point where this team has Super Bowl aspirations every year. That's where we're at. And it's largely because of what? The quarterback. It can't go from being the most important, position in all of Detroit sports to now we have a guy in a position while the team has finally had its greatest success in franchise history, and this is the guy that we're gonna put up on the hibachi grill. Like I just don't understand.
Well, understand this. This is what we like to do as a sports fandom. Aha! For instance, Jared Goff could be perfect in 8 straight games, and the Lions win those 8 games.
Oh, he has his jersey in the Hall of Fame for being perfect.
But in the 9th game, he has a subpar game, and here's what we do. Aha! I told you this is who he is.
Well, and that's why I also wanted to make the distinction of, if you look at 2023, you can point to a couple of games, and in 2024, they only lost twice, so you really can't. But in totality, his regular seasons, 2022 even included through 2024, were successes to some degree, with 2023 and 2024 being massive successes. And you definitely can't say anymore that he can't win a big game with the Lions because he's done it. The question is do the Lions have the team? Do they have the quarterback? Do they have everything in order to climb the ultimate mountain, which is win the Super Bowl? And that's still a question, and that's hopefully something that they can answer soon. And the answer can be yes. And I do want to get Chase's opinion on this as well, with everything that I laid out in the most baseline level.
Let's take the
Dick has
quick
entered,
one.
man. He's seen a lot in the Detroit sports, just lifestyle and landscape, correct?
No, this isn't about like Goff versus anybody else. It was just, to me, I was mostly.
No, it's about appreciating what you have, and you don't appreciate what you have.
do you
And that's what
mean?
makes me disgusted by people like you.
You're disgusted by
Yes.
me. I said he had an elite playoff run at the 2020.
And then you say, but then you call him a choker. Then you say you can't get it done with him. Then you say you can't win the big game. Then you say all these other slide comments. And it's nice that you do say the things that are obvious and you have to admit. But there are also things that you will refuse to admit, that this young man came in here and turned around an entire franchise that Terry's more talented quarterback had for 12 years and couldn't do shit with. That's what drives me nuts, because he has one bad game in a bad moment. Now he's questionable. He's never been questionable. He's the best quarterback to ever wear a Lions jersey. He's proven it. The stats prove it, which you love. You love stats. What has he done the past 2 years in the regular season?
Excellent.
He's got us closer than anybody else has.
Of course.
So I give him that endless respect, and that's what drives me nuts with people who want to bash Goff, who want to criticize him. You've never had better. You're never going to get better. So shut up. Enjoy what we have. Enjoy the guy that has taken you to places you've never seen in your life. 2 playoff wins. You never saw that in your life. Home playoff games. You never saw that in your lives. Oh, he could, and Jared Goff knows he's in a thankless position, but luckily he's above all you low peasants and understands that your opinion means nothing of him. He came here to Detroit. He turned around a franchise that Matty Patty had 12 years to do and couldn't even sniff a playoff victory. It was a fluke game, won't happen again, and I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt while everybody else is jumping off the ship.
So, if Brad Holmes has a bad moment, are we not allowed to say it?
And you chose violence after I was very complimentary of Jared Goff. Your problem
Not complimentary enough.
And that's the problem. You have to pretend. You know what? Jared Goff was great in that Commander game, and you know what? It was none of those turnovers.
Or how about, hey, he had a bad game. I'm not going to hold him like he's a choker.
But here's the stick. Let me just ask you this question for real, and I'm not trying to be smarmy. I'm actually trying to have a dialogue. When do we stop comparing the Lions to Lions of the past and start looking at them as a Super Bowl contender? Because at some point we can't just be like, Jared Goff did more than if the Brad Holmes, Campbell, Goff, all those great draft picks, Gibbs, Hutch, St. Brown, etc., doesn't net the Lions a Super Bowl, which I believe it will, but if it doesn't, it's a failure, a 100% failure. Then they're not a big boy organization. Then they're Buffalo Bills is what they'll become.
Do you know why you have these high standards right now, Flannel Sam?
Why?
Because of Jared Goff.
Among
because
other
they
things.
built the franchise around him, because they were able to draft those position players, because they already had the quarterback position established. You want to talk about Brad Holmes nailing these draft picks? He isn't allowed to go get a Jahmyr Gibbs. He isn't allowed to go get a Sam Laporta if he doesn't have his quarterback in place. So everything surrounds around Jared Goff. Every ounce of success that you guys are so happy about on the offensive side of the ball is because of Jared Goff and the ability to build around that man. So yes, I do want to get past looking past what we've been through, right?
Yeah.
But guess what? We're not there yet. But the only reason we're allowed to even peer over the fence at this point